Get stuff up here. Yep, yeah. That's pretty good.
Couple housekeeping items before we get started. If anyone needs to use the restroom, look out here to the left. Second, welcome to the Fishers Municipal Center. We're happy to have you here. You guys all found it, so noticing worked and the elevator worked, so that's great. And the last item I had that I wanted to mention, I forgot, so I will mention it later if I remember it, but we're all good to go at 5 o'clock. The meeting is being recorded. There are no microphones that you need to turn on and off. The building is all wired. So just speak like you normally would and have confidence that it'll be recorded. So that is a new bonus.
It just kind of makes it feel like Big Brother is watching.
Yeah, so if you see up here, there's some speakers that are green. So that'll let you know that it is being recorded. It's 5 o'clock, so I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, today is Wednesday, August 28th. This is the Nickel Plate Review Committee meeting. I would like to order. The pledge of allegiance.
Ms. Stoller.
Here.
Ms. Davis.
Here.
Ms. Leverance.
Here.
Mr. Block.
Yep.
And we do have a new member who's not able to be with us tonight. It's Amanda Welu. Am I saying that correctly? But we do have quorum.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of the previous meeting minutes from January 11th, 2024 and May 22nd, 2024. Any questions on the previous meeting minutes?
Motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next item is new business, the City View project to request to approve site design and architecture for the 55+ residential apartment community with 189 units, 19,620 square feet of retail and 2 restaurants.
Perfect
Ross.
timing. Yeah, yes. Perfect.
Thank you, Chair. Ross Hiller, Director of Planning and Zoning for the City of Fishers. Before you tonight is Nickel Plate Review Committee 24-2, which is the City View project. The City View project is located at the intersection of East 116th Street and Lantern Road. It's a combined 2.46 acres. You can see here those old lots. This is a 2023 aerial. But those lots combined with the small Flagler Park on the corner added together is the total project site. The property is zoned DC, which is our downtown core. The downtown core is intended to be the place where residents live, work, shop, and dine. And includes a mixture of uses, including commercial, office, retail, and residential, which 3 of those are part of this project tonight. The existing Kimberlane subdivision, which you can see here for additional context, has gone through the vacation process earlier this year in June. And we will vacate that officially with the new plat that is recorded. You can also see here some old alleys, which are public right of way. Those have also gone through the city council vacation process in July. And again, when we record that new plat, they will also officially be vacated. The proposed project as you mentioned, is a 55+ residential apartment complex with approximately 190 units. Will include approximately 19,000 square foot of retail space located along 116th Street. There will be two separate restaurants anticipated to bookend the retail. A high-end restaurant around 8,000 square feet with outdoor seating on the east end of the building. That will be located along Lantern Road. And as you can see here, this is the northeast view along 116th Street and Lantern Road. Here is the northwest view along East 116th Street and more. First Internet Bank would be on the right side of this image. A more casual restaurant around 4,000 square feet with outdoor patio seating will be along Moore Street and is anticipated on the west end of the retail mentioned before. Behind the retail use will be a 2-floor parking garage, as you can see on the right side of the image. Here is the southeast view along Lantern Road at South Street. The garage will include approximately 300 parking stalls in total. As part of the First Internet Bank, there is also another 100 publicly accessible parking spots adjacent to this building. There will be 4 stories of what is called stick construction on top of the 2-floor podium. Here is the southwest view along Moore and South Street. This is adjacent to First Internet Bank and Caddy Corner from District South. So those were the kind of pretty images. I want to continue here to, again, kind of help set the stage of where this is located. So here's the site plan with East 116th Street on the north. Lantern is located on the east. South Street is on the south, and Moore Street is along the west. It is encompassing nearly the entire 2 acres that we mentioned before. This is the north elevation along East 116th Street. The building has a defined base, middle, and top. It is 6 stories in its entirety with a substantial pedestrian area, which will be similar in nature to what we've all seen along First Internet Bank, which will welcome residents and visitors, as well as outdoor seating. Here is the east elevation along Lantern Road. Balconies are proposed on all sides, which add added dimension to the building. And as you can see here, this blade feature on the far right corner will help define the building along East 116th Street. Lantern Road will serve as a backup house for the building. As you know, as you've seen by the site plan, there's right away on all 4 sides. So they had the fun challenge of finding out where backup house was for the structure. This is the South Street elevation. This is one of 2 parking garage access points. Again, located along South Street. Again, the continuation of the podium and parking with residential above. And lastly, here is the Moore Street elevation. And here is the second pedestrian and vehicular access point into the garage. That is something we've noticed on all of our downtown projects. So we will identify and assist with signage to make sure both the vehicles and pedestrians know where to access the garage and how to get in and out of it. The developer will also work with the Fishers Art and Cultural Commission through a mural to be installed in the corner of Moore and South Street. Here is an example of where that is included in the staff report. Kind of want to give you guys a little bit of a refresher too. You guys are, in this all the time, but just some additional context. Adjacent to this building will be First Internet Bank, which at its peak is just over 100 feet in total. This building is around 80 feet at its tallest parapet. And across the street is Nickel Plate Station. So again, a mixture of residential and retail. Staff is overly supportive of the proposed project and waivers as presented. I do kind of want to go over a couple of things. We are currently going through our TAC process. So staff is requesting a recommendation of approval with the condition that all TAC comments have been addressed. And there are 2 primary waivers that we are seeking tonight. Downtown core has a maximum height of 4 stories or 60 feet. As mentioned, they are requesting 6 stories with an overall height of 72 feet at the parapet wall. And not that tall, so that delayed feature along 116th is 80 feet, 10 inches. Again, for context, First Internet Bank at the top floor is 91 feet and the mechanical penthouse is 103. So it'll be a little bit shorter than First Internet Bank if they're approved tonight. And second is the facade. We're comfortable with the material mixture that they have provided, but I do want to outline that the code requires 75% masonry along all frontages that face right away. As you can see here, that is all 4 sides of the building. But they have presented a good combination of glass, metal panels, EIFS, and masonry, which are outlined here and in the staff. Staff is happy to answer any questions, but we also have our team here, Tom Dickey with Rebar, who just wants to say a couple words.
Yeah, so thank you all. I'm gonna prepare you to speak here in just a second.
Okay.
So my name's Tom Dickey with Rebar. We're really proud to present this building. I just referred to or was talking to Greg Jacoby. Greg's president of Browning Day and our architects on this project. So we've understood the importance of this site from the very beginning, of it being a gateway into the city. So that led us, among other things, to Browning Day because they did the First Internet Bank building and let's see, Chris Reed's project, Nickel Plain Station, the trail and other things. So we really felt like adding them to our team would really bring the vision for this site forward. So we're super excited about it. It's no surprise, probably, to those of you who've been looking at developers' presentations, we're spending all the money on 116th Street in the corner around Lantern, because that's the money shot. That's what will be in brochures and will be, a really marquee visual for the city for years to come. And we are trying to make the project financeable, which is very difficult in this environment where we find ourselves today, but we're there. And so when you turn the corner, I mean, admittedly, it looks a little more traditional, but we have challenged Greg's firm, and we think we're there or very close to it, to still be a really nice looking building on South Street and on the side that is also kind of utilitarian because it faces the parking garage there to the west and has our trash room and some other things on it. So with that, Greg, I want to stay away from architectural terms. I thought maybe if you could just describe kind of the overall theme of the building, maybe how it ties in with the other work that your firm's done in the area. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Brian Jacoby, CEO of Browning Day. One of the first things we did with the building, we actually set the building back further than it needed to, so that the corner of First Internet Bank and the sign on First Internet Bank would not be obstructed. And then we started to work with heights, and you heard that we're 10 feet below the height, and that's really 10 feet on this eastern end. The western end is a little less than that, so we'd like the building step down a bit as it goes to the west. The primary pieces were, as you come off the highway, you're fairly high, you come down, it needed to have a fantastic elevation that was more inviting, not a flat wall. So this is a very dynamic wall. The balconies actually have glass rails go around, so it's a higher quality, a lot more glass in those pieces. And the top we call the penthouse is, it's set back. It's a unique piece. The roof comes up and it kind of has a little bit of a rise to the front. So it's kind of trying a nice welcoming elevation. Then there's a 2-story restaurant in that space. So really trying to make it represent that there is retail, there is food, there is activity on the street, people living above it. And then as you go down the street, in the middle of that, we have kind of the center building. We call that the Wicket. And it was just kind of the center lobby. The idea was, living here, you should feel like going in a hotel, and that has like a hotel kind of hospitality kind of feel. And the rest of it starts to blend back into the neighborhood. Part of it was First Internet is a very nice detailed building. We can't afford to buy detail that much. So sometimes when you design a building for the city, every building should be a look at that building. There are pieces of them that should be strong, and others should be of like kind and service to the buildings next to it. We said, and maybe this is self-serving because we did it First Internet. We thought it was a really nice building. We should step back, and that should be a little calmer. It kind of goes around the corner. That's what we did with the size. And as was noted before, there is no back door, so tried to make everything work in concert. But again, applying the same materials all around the buildings, one probably can't afford it. The other thing is going to kind of be a little mundane. So we started to get playful with the materials, and the colors, and the balconies as we broke up the masses around the building. A lot of it you won't see, and a lot of it, you're up on the second floor. So this is the primary innovation. You come into the city, you come down the hill, you'll see a lot of, but if you're driving by, because we're up 2 floors, you see less of it. If you're going to focus on the street driving, walking, you're going to see it. So try to take that into account as we were kind of coming up with what should be the primary facade where we spend maybe more money or have more details versus the secondary.
Great. Thank you. All right, so we would love to answer any questions or any comments.
See the seating of the outdoor restaurants, particularly the one on the corner here.
East End or West End? West End?
Yeah, that's, before you make a comment, I'll say one thing. That's not rendered very well. Because it looks like it's like almost sitting in a travel lane. So that's, I don't know if that's what you're thinking or not. But is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, we could pop the site plan back up there. Maybe we can zoom in on that corner. It's still, it is close, but it's also raised. So it's not raised as high as like Spark and the Mexican restaurant, which is like maybe 3.5 feet. It's raised about 18 inches and then a railing on that. So you got the curb and then it's also raised. And it may not extend all the, we've already pulled it back a little bit, I think, for a planter there from the facade. It may, when the retailer chooses us, we choose the retailer, that may end up being smaller than that. But I do note what you're thinking there. Is that what you're thinking? I just jumped right to it without.
No, you're very good at reading.
Okay, all right.
I'll say that.
'Cause I noticed the rendering today when I was looking at it, like it looked like that was kind of setting in the.
And then it's 80 feet off the corner.
Do you anticipate any outdoor seating on the east end of that restaurant?
On the backside. So,
Okay.
yeah, so.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, we're not building it right now, but it's other than utilities and getting it ready for it. Yeah, we expect a major outdoor seating there. Yeah.
Perfect.
And then we've got room on I think maybe we showed some 2 tops. Our thought was it could be on the front side, but only it'd be like a bar overflow. If you're waiting for your seat, it's a nice evening, you might stand out there. We don't really see that as sitting to dine on 116th Street. And again, it will all depend on the restaurant you were.
If you like hearing mufflers and loud motors.
Yeah, with your dinner. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, this just the way Lantern Road, it used to go straight probably 40 years ago, and the way it curved now, it's really provided a unique opportunity to find a spot for outdoor seating that wasn't facing 116th Street.
That's good.
And then on the elevation, it looks orange. Is that orange that's there? I mean, it looks like a bright orange from what
I
I'm
don't think
looking
we
at.
selected orange.
No,
Okay, those colors I'm fine with. I was gonna say this bright orange that I'm seeing on here.
Oh, I see. No,
Bright orange.
yeah, no.
No, that looks,
Yeah, it's the reds and the grays, and then a sort of what we call that brick on the left, it's sort of a grayish beige.
grays, browns, red.
brown.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't mind a little bit of color, but
Yeah.
fluorescent orange wasn't
Yeah.
calling it for me. Okay, and then Tom, yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, see that kind of looks orange there too. Like we discussed, the parking garages, what are your thoughts on that?
so let's go to the west elevation. And so that gray will actually be darker, and actually we were talking about doing that in like a darker kind of brick, where the color of the brick is, that make it blend in. So we did that for, you see the gray crisscross. So
Yeah.
that's actually the formed cast in place concrete that will probably be smooth finish, so it looks, and that exists in the city in various places. So we looked at bringing like the tan color down. We looked at a lot of different things, and it always felt to me like in this application, two things. One is we are facing the dumpsters and other things at First Center Bank. And so more it's not an alley, but it kind of will function as alley because our trash room is right next to City View parking. So we really didn't want to spend more money on our 16th Street get here. So that's why that's one reason why it's concrete. The other was just, to
What about
me,
the South Street elevation? Did that? have-
it's the same. Yeah. So,
Okay.
so we're talking about and actually the other, well, let's just go around. So there's South Street.
Yeah,
So we know that we threw trees in front of it intentionally, try to do that. But so I guess it's not, I should say three reasons. The second reason is we are an open garage. It's like some people know what that means. It means that we don't have to have mechanical ventilation, which is, I don't know, it's probably $1 million issue if your garage is completely contained, if not more. And so that's a very defined calculation, and we're right on the edge of that. Like so much so that last time I asked, I said, can we just put trees in front of all those openings? And I think we'll be able to do that, but Mike, Greg's team, Mike Walker said, we just have to do the math. I mean, because look at those have to be taken into calculation. So that's why they're open as far as the screen or other things on there. So I guess the final question would be, could they be another material, this brick, for example? And that was the third reason why I chose this, was it just felt like we were trying to force it to not look like a garage, which we have done very successfully on 116th Street and the first half of the Lantern Road elevation. But here we're just kind of like, it is a garage. We're next to a garage, it is what it is. We'll really make that entrance pop. We'll have the public art, we'll have the landscaping, and we'll be able to spend the money on 116th Street and the east side of Lantern. So that was our thought process. We did say, we don't need to show, if you could all picture if all those crisscrosses were brick. We could do that. It's six, that's, I don't know, Richard Greg could throw a number at it, but it's six figures to add brick on all those, it's probably $100,000 or so.
is there any way you can bring the coloring down or something like one of those railings that would match the decks there, just to kind of break it up? Or maybe even some more landscape, just because we, on the other project behind here, what's that one?
FIB or District South.
District South.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I get my project
Yeah.
names.
Uh-huh.
So I know where I am. Okay. But, we went through this whole thing about engagement, especially along South Street.
Mhm.
And that's why I'm like, especially maybe not next so much near the trash dumpsters, but if we could bring, something down to kind of break that up and, whether it's the railings, whether it's some coloring, something like that, I
Yeah.
think that it would, or additional landscaping.
We get are you driving or is it up here?
You can drive.
Just thinking. The renderings, are the renderings? No, we didn't show color. To your point about showing color, that was one thing that we had absolutely discussed, whether those could be a gray, a dark, they're just they're natural concrete shown in that elevation.
Yeah.
But whether they could be a dark gray to either match the metal or even a brick color that to sort of match to blend in more with the brick. That was actually part of the plan. I don't think I conveyed it to we did these renderings pretty quickly to make sure we met the deadline, but that could absolutely, I was thinking like maybe even the band that's on the bottom, a little darker, it could be that. I think we just had to play with it to see what colors we thought really worked the best.
Ross, what is staff's thoughts on, these concrete crisscrosses? What's your ideas here? I mean, I know several ideas have been thrown out today.
I know we've made a very conscious effort along the nickel plate trail. That's like our shining star now, right? So if we ever saw another garage come up, we would try extremely hard to mask it in all possible ways. Understanding what Moore Street is and that kind of utilitarian use that it is, I think this was an improvement from what staff saw originally, which is why we felt comfortable bringing it before you. Understanding that the garage itself needs to be exposed, I would be really comfortable if you guys would allow them to work with staff on coming up with what that solution is. And even if it's, staying in concrete so it blends in. I think maybe that is kind of the one point is we feel like the concrete itself is a little more glaring. And if it just needs to blend in with the building and the garage itself is kept it exposed, I'd be comfortable with that.
I don't want to add 6 figures to your project. Making you put brick all around there. I mean, I get the financing today, but would like to see it blended a little bit better, whether it's, the railings with the concretes, dyeing it or whatever. I think it would be, good. Oh, and then the mural, I just want to make a recommendation on the mural. There's been other people within the city that are on another mural. So I want to make a recommendation that we have the members of this committee.
I wouldn't have gotten that. I only learned that was someone's likeness on that girl that you might be referring to just a few weeks ago. I didn't realize.
For the
I'm
record,
just kidding.
permission was not asked. The artist, taken up on
The
the
artists thought they would appreciate it in hindsight.
Well, I'm just kidding on that one, as you know, but I want to give the other committee members to make comments and to share their concerns if they have any.
I think just working with the concrete, a better concrete solution, I think was probably my biggest thing. But I don't have any other comments.
I don't have any comments.
Well, I'll weigh in, and I did have the opportunity to talk to Tom a little bit in advance so that, at least he was aware of some of the concerns, but first of all, I think you guys have done a great job from a design standpoint. I love what you've tried to do with the railings, that northeast, just prominence and what it does along 116th Street. That to me is one of our primary entry points. I think where you can soften with landscaping around there, and you've done some of that in the rendering. I hope it's symbolic of what will happen, because I think that will help a lot. I love the fact that you've got a plan for that northwest corner and the northeast corner, prime restaurant spaces. The concern I have, though, relates to some of the experience that we've had in Fishers. And I mentioned to Tom, the example of the depot and, some of the problems that exist with a mixed use project that has inherent parking problems. I think what we have now started in the downtown is wonderful, and I hope that, staff and we're able to continue to raise the bar with what's happening. But by the same token, what we don't want to see happen is the struggles that the commercial space at the depot has. Even Tiburon, which just opened and is doing extremely well. The concern is where people, they have to know where to park, and it has to be proximate. I did some calculations, and I'm really worried about the undersizing of the garage. And my calculation, which I share with Tom, so I'm raising them for the record. If you have 189 units and you have average 1.5, maybe 1.6 parks per unit, that in itself, 302. My understanding is while the staff outlined 310, it may be more, it might be as much as 340 that's provided in the garage. But then you add on the restaurants, and who knows what else, but just using the restaurants alone, which probably are going to take 10 parks per 1,000 square feet. I mean, that's not a bad rule of thumb. So that adds another 130 spots. So you're now at a need, in my mind, a successful, to successfully handle what the demand would be within the building of like 430, 432. There are things that can be done about, you know, offsetting parking. But my worry is, you know, the residents that are gonna live there are gonna be there in the night, in the evening, when the restaurants are the busiest. I don't know how that gets done well. I mean, there are problems that Tom and I talked about, that quite frankly, the apportionment that occurred at the depot was problematic. That is, there was never an adequate amount of commercial parking afforded to those businesses. And I had early conversations when I was serving on council with, the marketing person, the leasing person. And, you know, he was desperately wanting more, parking and, you know, whatever. Maybe Flaherty wasn't willing to change it, but the reality is those spaces have turned over. Businesses have not, you know, there are probably a variety of reasons, but I think inherently it's underserved. And that's what I don't want to see. I want to see businesses that locate there, the restaurants that locate there succeed. We don't want to see them turn over because of fundamental infrastructure problems. And, you know, I know that this is a cost matter, right? Big cost matter. Tom had mentioned that there will be valet and the ability to park elsewhere. My worry about, you know, trying to either force people to park at the First Internet Garage or other locations is it's a problem. I mean, in that people don't want to be inconvenienced. I like to joke because I say we Hoosiers are spoiled. That is because in bigger cities, you know, you just walk
Right.
2 blocks. But, you know, we want our parking right in front of our retail centers. We want our parking adjacent to, you know, restaurants and such. And so I really worry about it. And, you know, I mentioned to Tom, or at least asked, you know, this to me is, you know, a big ask, or let's say a big problem, because I'm not comfortable that this is adequate for what's going to happen here. And again, I think what you've done is terrific, but the last thing we want is to see people go in their restaurants and others and fail because of inherent parking problems. So, you know, you have the ability to maybe.
Yeah. So let me also, and so, yeah, Rich and I had this conversation. So I'll just talk about how we arrived at the 310 to 340 number. It's at least like 325. No, I apologize for not having that dialed in. Literally, I was driving back from Northwest Indiana and learned our application said like 310 or 314. And it's just more than that. And I had somebody count them and we were like 328, and it looked like maybe we could get a few more. And I was anyway, so that's so it's somewhere in that range. So as a starting point, in our discussions with the administration, which really is kind of how these, as I'm sure you know, these projects come about, is we get some land under control. We have an idea of what the project might want to be. We've already heard from the mayor or Megan. We know what the nickel plate plan says. And so we have somebody on Greg's team start drawing, and we come in with all kinds of different, we probably, and Greg could probably tell you, because he could probably look at his hours built this project, which he's not going to get probably all paid for. We had 15 or 20 different iterations. Lots of parking, a standalone garage, kind of like FIV, different things. We landed on this with a theory that, and it's more than a strategy between the administration and us, that this project is part of a bigger parking ecosystem, which we talked about. And so what the administration was somewhat tired of, I believe, is funding garages that aren't used all the time. When Rich referred to the depot, and I was actually with the city when that was done, so you can blame me for that. There's only 81 spots below the bar. And, you know, we were negotiating and we felt like that's what we had to do to get the deal done. But above the bar, it's like 1.5 or more per unit. And on any given night, there can be 75, 50 spots above the bar. Above, you know, what I mean by the bar is the bar that drops when you go to park. Do you have to have a fob? And so really the administration kind of doesn't want that to happen. So one thing we did differently here is our exclusive spots where we can put a bar, there's only one per. So there's only 191 reserve spots. And then the rest, if you have two cars and you live at City View, you'll have a permit and a fob to be able to park one. And if you have a second one, you'll just have to park it down below. Or if we play the movie forward and both restaurants are really busy, Tiburon's busy, it's hopping, and the garage literally is full, and you live here, your second car is parked above the bar, you're coming home, and there's no spot. Well, you just got to kind of do what you do with urban environment. That doesn't mean the next morning you're not going to call property management and say, what the heck, I'm a Hoosier, I want to park right here, but I had to park in the edge garage. So it's not without pain that we're sort of educating the community on parking. But so there are, and just a couple of things, there's 100 public spots in the FIB garage, which I bet on a Friday and Saturday night now are eaten up by Tiburon or pretty close to it between that and anything else that's going on there. But at the edge garage, which we really like the proximity to our high-end restaurant, is literally across two crosswalks near there, and that's 270 spots with no residential demand. So that's there in the evening right now, empty, essentially probably for a few stragglers. So
I don't know that Handel's line.
yeah, and well, and then also to the south, very close to the south, District South, which is also a rebar project on the other side of the street, has 15,000 square feet of office that'll be vacant during the evenings too. So there could be some back and forth there. Richard Matthews is exactly right. And we love to have that much parking. We would, but we wouldn't want to pay for it. The city wouldn't want to pay for it. And again, I guess the overall strategy was that we're part of a bigger ecosystem. And I'll just close with this, and I don't know if Ross anything to add or not, but Rich asked me if it would hurt us if we were, if we just continue this for a month. We always like to be approved, and he's in this business too. He likes to be approved the first night. But the answer to the question, would it hurt us? The answer is no. It wouldn't hurt us if we had to go back and just sort of everybody do the math and be comfortable about it. I don't know what we would do if we determined there was an issue. I think we would probably.
Well, Tom, maybe part of that response would be to come up with a plan that, I mean, you've kind of outlined some thoughts.
Yeah.
But
And I'll just step in for a second. I appreciate all the comments about administration. I will second Tom and that we are in the middle of a downtown parking study that staff has initiated. We know not on street, not surface parking. We have 3,000 parking spots in our parking garages. And at any given time, we have around 1,500 available. So if this was to be continued, I believe our strategy would be to identify the other spots in the garages adjacent. And that would be the city solution that we would bring forward to you. I don't know if this footprint is going to change because we see it as a larger.
I mean, I appreciate that,
Okay.
but I don't know that answers in my mind the problem that we Hoosiers expect. I mean, honestly, I think
Yeah.
the worry I have is, let's say, an over prioritization on residential parking to the loss of the success of commercial. I mentioned to Tom, what I think is really important to the vibrancy of our downtown now is that mix of commercial with the new residential that's occurred. And that mix is office, it's restaurants. I mean, you guys have heard all the positives that, people have said about what's happened with Tiburon, the new hotel. I mean, there's so much vibrancy in the evenings, but yet we don't want the problem, right? So, yeah, I don't like the idea that someone was, no offense, that someone parks over at the police garage that has tremendous capacity. I mean, that to me is not viable capacity
Right.
for this project. So just to say we have 3,000 spaces and 1,500 to use, well, we have to look what's proximate, what's available, even literally First Internet, 100 spots for what's going on there is a worry. And so I think it's maybe wayfinding, it's control, residential, it's all of that. But yeah, I have just concerns, as I said, it relates to experience that we've had with other projects and wanting to make sure we don't misstep again.
There is one thing that we did miss on the First Internet Bank, which will be a benefit to the hotel nickel plate. I included in the staff report, we have a standard public parking sign. That is part of our strategy that we see long-term on educating the public on, if you see this knows that there's public parking, whether that's they add more, whether they get bigger, whatever that is to help communicate. We are installing 3 of those on the First Midnight Bank parking garage to kind of assist with that restaurant. I'm with you though. Spoiled, I want to park right in front. We have to have this shift on educating the public on utilizing these spaces. If I want to go to dinner at Tiburon, I know that I'm going to park in the garage and I have to get past that kind of mindset.
So let me ask you a few questions
Yep.
here. I don't know if we can do this or not. Find out over at City Center, if I'm gonna go to Matt the Millers, either I have to park in City Center and walk to Matt the Millers, or I have to use valet parking. And I've done it with both when I've been there. I guess some of my questions is what kind of education did they do in that situation? Because that's almost what I think that we're trying to create in this downtown area, because whether I'm going to, what is it? I don't know, the cake shop over there, or even the Carmichael, I gotta park in the garage and walk.
Yeah. I think that is part of this ongoing parking study that we're doing, because I think at the end, we're gonna have a determination on, or is our signage is correct? Are we doing a good enough job on our communication? Are we doing a good enough job on our know before you go for public events? I think it's kind of a large gambit. We are in the beginning stages of that. Our team is doing that right now. I don't know if I go over to City Center. I also know I'm gonna park in a garage, so
Yeah.
it takes a couple of years to figure that out.
I did want to add, I forgot to mention this, on the valet parking. So this is the site plan. I was hoping you could see the mouse. Okay. So we have, this lobby, if you enter the garage, will really be unlike any other lobby in Fishers, and I think Carmel as well for garage, for multifamily that has a parking garage, which is usually like, you know, a door with like a number 1 on it, maybe some side lights, and you go in, you go up. This is more of a, like a hotel kind of feel. So you have a drop off here. So that, first of all, on the point we're talking about, that's valet parking for whatever. But, and then this is very, this one I'm going to describe now is a strategy is directly addressing parking. Because the idea is that you would do valet, and there's a pass through then that's separate from our lobby that you can just walk through, which FIB does not have. Depot does have. But this is enclosed. You can walk through and then go to the restaurant. We may even have a door there into the restaurant. So that, and then valet is the same. And then just describing this a little bit more. So this is all glass looking in through to our lobby. There'll be brick on these walls. So it's just a different feel, which I think will be inviting an easy valet service kind of to work there, because it feels very valet-like, with being more hotel-like than just a parking garage.
I am extremely confident in bringing you guys back that parking study as a whole. If that's something I think is very of value to this group and will help make your future decisions, I will promise to do that as we move forward and give you an update each time we meet.
I think that's great. I mean, you know, to me, it's also a council issue, if you will, and city decision, because, you know, there may be other things that are being considered where, like across the street, I'll use that example, maybe that site gets redeveloped and maybe that's where a larger garage goes, but I don't know. That to me is longer term, but, you know, short term, and with this project, I'm concerned. Yeah, because I like what you're doing,
Yeah.
and I really think that's a real important part of what we do downtown.
Just ask one quick, do you, you seem to not, at least haven't latched on to the idea that the edge is a viable parking option for this with its 270 some.
I don't know what that means. Does that mean that the valet is going to park 100 cars per
Yeah.
night over there?
Probably not that many valet
Okay.
parkers, I don't think. So,
Can you quantify what that is, and if you will?
oh, yeah, so
help.
I didn't, I'm sorry, I thought you were going to ask, what does that mean? I think a lot of people I would just park there. Because rather than valet, I would just park and cross one street and go in. And so it is like the parking garage for that retail theoretical.
Well, here would be, my counter would be, you make the residents park over, they get only one spot reserved, and you have their second spot be at Edge.
Mhm. Mhm.
That, I don't know, where do you place the priority?
Yeah,
Um,
One of our large scale parking issues is spots being assigned and dedicated to certain
yeah,
uses.
absolutely.
So as a resident or a visitor, if I'm going to the restaurant and I see a sign, it may say office free after 6. There's a sign on it. I drive past it, right? So that's part of this study as well, because we have a lot of promises to garages of dedicated spots. So that's an ongoing issue, and the confidence that residents have to know if I go to a garage, I'm going to find a spot. Because you can go on the first floor of Switch over here, and one area looks like it's free, and the other one you're not really sure. So
Very good point. Yeah.
sign
Well,
finding is
I guess I was leaving that as much up to you
Yeah.
about what the plan is.
Yeah.
Maybe there is a way to address the concern. I don't have.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um, That's why I asked, is a little more time acceptable or something?
Yeah, we're shooting for September 30th, September 27th, Monday the 27th closing. So we want this before that.
People, we needed to meet, separately.
Yeah, I mean, we've done that before in the past. If we need to move the meeting up a week or two or something like this in order to allow you to move forward.
That's great. I
think we
appreciate,
probably
we appreciate that.
staff can help
Absolutely,
us with
yeah.
that, correct?
And the deliverable for that meeting is we will not have the parking.
I think it's more of a plan for parking for City View. Is that what you're referring to? It's more of a, and we can work together on that, but it's probably on us to really say,
I agree.
it's like documenting our strategy on how we were going to attack it. Yeah.
And then if you could get the paintings or the renderings of what you're gonna do with those concrete crisscrosses, come up with a couple ideas of what's feasible,
Sure thing.
that would be good.
And the waivers, in my mind, were fine.
Yeah.
Because I think the look is really nice.
Great. Thanks.
So can I get a motion to move forward with the major waivers and then also have you continue working with staff on great solutions? And then set up an additional meeting to go over parking
I
solutions.
think we're just continuing, right?
We can, yeah, I'm okay. That just makes it, I'm okay. We just continue the whole.
Yeah,
just
application until,
Do a motion. I'll make a motion to continue.
but if any of you change your mind between now and then on the waivers, though.
Yeah.
We'll hold you.
Exactly.
All of those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And where was the second?
I mean,
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
thanks, Tom.
The next item on the agenda is the Nickel Road townhomes. Request approval of a site plan and architecture of 35 townhomes on 3.1 acres known as the Nickel Road townhomes.
Thank you. Kevin Martin with the city's planning department. Presenting, as you mentioned, NPRC 24-3 Nickel Road Townhomes. The subject site is located just a block south of 116th Street, and it is adjacent to the Nickel Plate Trail and fronts Fishers Point Boulevard. It is an infill development that will take a portion of this property. You can see it's currently improved within the existing church and surface parking lot. The applicant is proposing subdividing the land, and the acreage that will be subdivided from this site is roughly 3 acres in size. And the proposal is to improve that remaining site with 35 townhomes. I will mention that a primary plat and a subdivision improvement permit are also being reviewed and going through the process. They will be reviewed at our technical advisory committee tomorrow. The zoning of the site is within the village center. It's within the village center, the surrounding zoning, it is village center likewise to the north. It is TCR to the east across the Nickel Plate Trail. And it is R5 residential both to the west and south, as you can see in the exhibit. Just a little bit about the Village Center Zone. This is straight from our code. Some of the main points I will highlight, it prioritizes residential products. It emphasizes a connectivity to downtown. It talks about connectivity through trails and sidewalk network, which clearly this site meets all of those, being completely adjacent to the trail. Here's the site in 3D, just to give you a little bit of an idea of what that portion being subdivided from the church property looks like. Here you can see the trail along the right-hand side and Fishers Point Boulevard curving along that frontage. Here's the proposed site plan. It includes 10 buildings. 6 of those are directly adjacent and fronting the Nickel Plate Trail. And 1 building is fronting Fishers Point Boulevard there. This image and the remaining site plan images will be oriented like this. You can see north is over to the right of the screen. Again, these are the 10 buildings on site. Here you can see a little bit of the site plan distilled. There may be some changes to the site plan depending on the TAC process. Some sight lines may require the buildings to angle a little or be pushed back. With that, I'll quickly go through the architectural renderings. The architecture is consistent throughout the development. There's multiple different products. As I mentioned, there's some buildings that have 2 units, some buildings that have 3 units on them, some with 4, and then that first building along Fishers Point Boulevard contains 5 units. Again, the architecture is consistent. The materials being used are consistent throughout all of those buildings. And so I'll go through those renderings here. You can see the front rendering of that first building along Fishers Point Boulevard. It has 4 units in a row and then 1 building that's pushed back, providing some additional articulation along the frontage of Fishers Point Boulevard and accommodating for the curve of the road. You can see there's plenty of roof variation within this structure. There's plenty of facade articulation and a variety of materials, maintaining a cohesive color scheme. Here's the back side of that building. And so we'll move along. These are the buildings that front the Nickel Plate Trail, starting with the southernmost building. You can see here the consistent design. This one includes the brick wraparound so that the frontage that is facing Fishers Point Boulevard has some more masonry incorporated to it. And then you can see the direct access that the front of these townhomes will have to the Nickel Plate Trail. Moving along to the second building and the second to last, these are 3-unit buildings. This is the front rendering of those buildings and the rear rendering of those. Onto the center 2 along the trail, these are 4-unit buildings. This is the front site rendering, and this is the rear render of those properties. The last property along the Nickel Plate Trail does the same thing that the southernmost building did, wrapping around that brick, this time around to the north side of the building. So this is the front rendering, and then here you can see that brick wrapping around, so that will be the view visible as you're going on the Nickel Plate Trail south. Next, we have this 2-unit building. This is the only building with only 2 units. Here you can see the front rendering and the rear rendering of that structure. And lastly, these 2 structures in the center are also, these are 4-unit structures, and this is what the frontage of those will look like and the rear of those properties. Here you can see the proposed materials throughout the project. They're using 3 different colored bricks, some polished concrete, and also some 5% siding. There's a couple different variations of it. As you saw in the rendering, there's some lap siding, and then there's some panel siding as well with metal detailing. So you can see here on the color palette, excuse me, the three brick colors, the siding colors, and then also the color of the metal finishes. There's one of those elevations with details on the different materials. And you have the elevations within your packet for all of the different structures. The applicant is requesting 5 waivers. I will note one of those may not be necessary, depending on the TAD process. But here are the 5 that are being sought after right now. You can see they're requesting a waiver from the masonry requirements on secondary frontages. They're not meeting that 50% masonry requirement. Also, they're not incorporating decorative headers over the windows, choosing alternative window articulation design with the trim and the metallic trim. Also, the articulation requirements, there's a minimum of 2 feet for every 50 feet of width. And then the anti-monotony regulations require a roof design to be different in every structure. They've clearly decided to keep that throughout the development, which we think is convenient and it's a good look for the project. There's plenty of roof articulation in each of the structures. So they're not necessarily different structure to structure. And then the last waiver is that a waiver from the minimum required front yard setback. And again, that is depending on the sight line. And for that one building that's along Fishers Point Boulevard, it's only 2 feet required. And only a corner of the building would encroach into that front setback. With that, I'll conclude my presentation. I'm available if you have any questions for me. And if not, there is the applicant and the representatives are here and additional materials to show. Questions for me? Sorry, I know I sped through that, but we're short on time.
Real quick, my name is Rick Lawrence. I'm an attorney with Nelson and Frankenberger here on behalf of Onyx and East, and with Onyx and East is Brandon. Kevin did a really good job going over the presentation and what we propose here. There are a few slides I wanted to go over that kind of give a bigger picture view of this, and then we're here to answer any questions you might have. This is a different type of rendering that you can see more 3D of what the building's going to look like, the townhomes along the nickel plate. We're trying actively to activate the space in front of it by having 2 connections that connect to the trail. And
Do you
again,
feel that rendering is more representative of what will happen than the other package?
it's representative in that you're seeing the view from basically the other side of the trail as it's looking into the
Specifically where you have like the terraced brick and the rail.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. Yeah, that is more representative.
Okay.
There is going to be a grading of kind of a raised retaining wall with the front patio on those units that front the trail.
Like it, okay. Yep. Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. And as Kevin said, this is showing the layout as it's separated from the church. You can see some of the landscaping that they're going to be putting in. I wanted to point out between the 2 4-unit buildings, there's going to be like an internal courtyard. It's how it's ended up being developed. So those will have a different, unique setting for themselves. This again is a picture of the color palette that will be used throughout the development. And we have some examples here if you want to see them firsthand. So floor plans, if you weren't interested in that, you can go through those. I'm guessing no.
You have a price point in mind?
Right now, we're trying to target starting with 500,000.
This slide shows the retained church area that they want to activate with a garden type area. There's a current existing garden on the parcel that we're planning on developing, but we want to shift that garden area to that remaining about ½ acre that the church is going to utilize. This is just some representative pictures of what that would look like, and then what type of courtyard between those four buildings that might also exist down there at the bottom. That was really it. Kevin did a good job of going over the summary. We don't be any longer than we have to, so we're happy to answer any other questions you might have.
The one thing I'll add from the mayor's office is they were really excited when they saw the Onyx Needs product on what kind of the eyes on the trail kind of mindset would be, and kind of creating that, for lack of a better term, stoop culture that a lot of great cities have. And so when they showed this product with those front garden areas, those stoops along the trail, along Fisher's Point, really excited to see that. We know residents crave using the trail, and we're happy for that. This will be another opportunity for residents to see that and adds to that level of safety that people are using the trail. Appreciate their work on that.
Is there any code or within the nickel plate that now requires residential to be facing the trail?
We don't have a code that requires it. We are looking at looking
Okay.
at the entire length of that.
Yep.
And what the uses are along there. There's a really, like I said earlier, more desirable uses than a parking garage. So this is a great example of how we can utilize that and really get more value out of the trail for everyone.
Well, on that point, I'll kind of pick up from there. I mean, to me, I like what you've done with all the units facing either the trail or Fisher's Point Boulevard, even the, garage access on the rear. I saw the earlier renderings in the package and what was presented, and honestly, it just seems sparse from the landscaping. I love what you've done there with that activation, with the terrace, so I think maybe with staff, if those same details are incorporated into the plans, I'm in favor of it. I mean, I think that hits the mark. And even when you have, the tension in some of the examples that you used, I hope that's what is actually incorporated. So maybe with staff's help, you can develop that, but otherwise, waivers are fine in my mind, because I think you've achieved a lot of articulation through the units, so that's nice. I'm in favor of it, but I'll let others comment.
I think the activation is important, something like that, so I agree.
Yeah, can you show me like where the access points are to the trail?
Kind of hard to see, but.
Highlight or the lighter area. I'll be Vanna.
There's one here that connects to the courtyard, and another one to the north up here. There's also a third that's already established on Fisher's Point. Residents here will.
So is there another green space there that's showing with a kind of triangle area and those trees? Is that?
Yeah, so there's a courtyard right in the center where you see the pink and green trees. There's a courtyard open space there, and then the retention is a dry retention, and that's the images that they were showing.
Are you thinking of, or asking about the church property being retained?
No, I mean, so what I'm looking at is, I'm gonna guess 60% of the people living here are gonna have dogs. Everybody has a dog. Where do they take their dog out to walk? Because I'm concerned with that.
I would take them on the nickel plate trail to walk my dog.
That's true. They could use
Yeah.
the trail.
Yeah.
But when I get up in the morning and I just want to let the dog out, and it's a 5-minute walk before I sit down on my computer and start.
Yeah.
My dog does recess at 10 noon, 2 and 4. And she lets you know. But so that's what I'm kind of looking at is, some of it, how do we get, and you may be right, the trail may be the answer to that. They just do a quick walk on the trail or something to kind of get that going. So next question, this is probably more council question than here. Are there rental units allowed in this? Somebody buys it, wants to rent it.
All that will kind of be defined within the bylaws of the HOA, once those are established.
Okay.
But at this stage, we don't really predetermine the rental versus for sale component of the zoning of the property.
Okay, so let me be clear. BlackRock can come in and buy 10 units and then control the HOA.
We typically have draft bylaws that
Okay.
prohibit that. So as the developer and the sales team, we actually work with the management team to set up those HOA documents. And then we are the board of that HOA throughout the development. And then once the project is 90% occupied, we actually turn that over to the actual residents who will then maintain the HOA. And then that's up to the HOA owners, how they want to modify the bylaws in the future.
I'm not concerned about them being modified. I'm concerned about the way they're set up initially. Can we put some type that there's going to be no more than 5% of the units as rental or something like that in those bylaws?
We can't do that just because it restricts financing. Lenders will look at this and say, if we can't sell the units, then we have no way to actually return the principal back to us as the lenders. And because there's no way to rent that, we'd have to, there's a deed restriction. It basically makes the project.
Okay, I just know the other communities, I know Noblesville is doing that. They're requiring restrictions on rental units as they're being developed.
Happy to look at that. I think the administration and our team is truly under the impression, and along with Onyx and East and their intent on this is all for sakes and purposes intended to be owner occupied. I think you're touching on a larger citywide issue. I don't know, Lindsay, if you have any comments on a larger citywide rental restriction issue on HOAs, but.
Yeah, we're still kind of looking into that. You know, the legislature recently kind of cracked down on rental registration. So we're just trying to find ways to make sure that we're still compliant with Indiana code. But we do have some software that we've recently approved for use. And I've started kind of working towards a rental registry type program. But it's a lot to actually get implemented. It's not as simple as one may think, unfortunately.
I know it's a big project, and right now I know you got you're up to your eyeballs in trash. I'm sorry, but I get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was gonna say, you know, I would like it to be developed with the hopes of getting owner occupants as opposed to, you know, letting a lot of the REITs come in and buy some of these. I know we've had some develop and they just go in and buy the units right away.
I think the best solution is what Chris said earlier, is putting out the bylaws.
That's what I think. I would suggest, I think 5% is probably very low, but, you know, I think it's a good idea. I really think about that, but I know it's like all these communities are dealing with it now. To allow for some reasonable percentage. I can't imagine if it's a reasonable percentage, it's really that much of a finance issue. I mean, do you have a pre-sale requirement with each phase? Okay, yeah, but I mean, that's what's gonna control it from the lender's standpoint, I'm guessing. So probably like in a four unit building, you have 2 pre-sales or something to start, right?
I'm happy to kind of take that direction and work with our legal team in Onyx and East.
To come up with a reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and on what they will agree to.
Can you find out what Noblesville is requiring?
We can do that. Yeah.
Is the green space intended to be shared amongst the church as well? Is that going to be?
So, yeah, so it's kind of intentional that the courtyard has a sidewalk connection that kind of ends at that property line. The church has made it clear that they kind of want to go through their own internal design study exercise of how they want to program and utilize that half acre that they want to keep. So we're kind of leaving that as an open connection point where the idea was kind of to open it up so that that could be a kind of a pass through to get to the trail from that property.
How do you want to leave that then, Selena, at this point? So do you want to let that continues to come back, or what are you thinking, or just work that out with staff separately?
I would just mention that this committee does typically not discuss financial like restrictions
Yeah. I was gonna
or
say,
how that land
Is
use
that the
is
council?
decided. But to ease your guys' kind of thoughts on, I'm really happy to work with them and I can update you.
Okay,
I think that's fair across the city. It's not an Onyx and East problem, it's a citywide.
Yeah, and I just like to know what some other communities are doing so that we can move forward.
I like what they've done. I think there are elements, I mean, you made the point too about, you know, the orientation of residential to the trail. That's great. I mean, I think honestly, that should be a requirement of all projects that border the trail, you know? And that should be, whether it's just Nickel Plate, but I mean, throughout the city, right? I mean,
Yeah.
so then where are we at this point? Are we,
I think we allow them, I mean, that is a little bit beyond the purview of this committee. I
okay,
understand that, so I think we need to push that back to staff, let them work with staff on that. And
you want to make a motion to that effect then? That your motion to approve with the understanding that they're gonna work with staff?
yes, motion to approve that they're gonna work with staff on, I don't know, do we have that trail access for the church? I don't know if that's something, but motion to prove that we're going to, with these, with staff recommendations on waivers, and also that they will continue to work with staff on the rental units and seeing what we can work on that. Staff's gonna provide us back. So that's my motion.
What was the comment about the church access?
I know that they were talking about a church access for the trail type thing. I don't know if that needs to come, if that needs to be.
There's a
worked on.
drive connection there. Is that what you're talking?
I'm comfortable in pushing that back to you
I've
and
got it.
letting them work
Yeah,
on.
we'll make sure there's good connection
Yeah.
for the place of worship.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is staff communication.
There is no staff communication. We will be in touch with their next meeting, since the one item was continued. Everyone.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I think that, you know, yeah, I think that's a.
So we hired Jeff earlier this year, you know. The non-walkability, if you look them up, that's what he's something